Okay, yeah, great. So again, Jared Fenn. I've been doing home inspections for almost 14 years now. Grew up doing construction in Montana, moved to Utah, and looking for things to do, and wasn't really enjoying the cubicle job that I had, and saw a home inspection company for sale. So I looked into it, and it turned out to be a franchise. So Pillar to Post is a franchise. It's the largest home inspection company in North America. And so I jumped into that and full time, and been doing that since. So it's been good. I think at least my team, we've done over 8,000 inspections in the area. We cover the Wasatch Front, but mostly the area, Utah County, which is kind of the whole region south of Salt Lake City. So we'll venture up into Salt Lake City, but most of that other area up into Park City occasionally, and so we do home inspections. I'm sure most of the audience is familiar with what we do as home inspections, but and maybe even with Pillar to Post, we have I think it's 500-600 inspectors across the country that are part of Pillar to Post.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And just for the audience, I apologize. They weren't able to hear me give you that lovely introduction. Something in my audio is a little mixed up. So they can hear now. Awesome. And I think they did hear you explain what you do. So that's great. So you're doing these home inspections. You've been doing them all up and down the Wasatch Front here in Utah. How specifically do you work with real estate agents, and what are you kind of seeing right now during these weird times during the pandemic that's different from what you've seen in the past?
So as far as how we work with agents, what I've tried to do is integrate with a lot of the teams and with agents and partner with them. So where you have agents that have their preferred mortgage title and people that they just get to know and know how each other work. That's been our niche, is really to work with those teams, and even though I have several inspectors on my team, that's been from day one, that's been my goal. Look, whether you get any one of my guys or you get me, it's going to be the same process. And so that consistency is important. So that consistency has probably been the biggest challenge, because we're so routine. Okay, this is how we do our inspections step by step. Okay, now, social distancing, now dealing with that. Now we can't do the follow-up. So one of the things that's a little different than with Pillar to Post from a lot of home inspection companies is we usually do our reports on site. We print them on site. We go through the printed report with the client. And the last month, we aren't printing them on site. We're not even meeting with clients on site. We're going there. We're asking sellers, for the most part, to not be home. We go and do the inspection. We leave. And so that's created a lot of difference and challenges on how we're doing the inspections. There's also a lot of just difference where, a lot of my day when I wasn't doing inspections was out interacting with agents, going to realtor events, and none of that's happening either. And so we've had to really adjust and make a lot of changes, and it's been interesting, but and fun. I kind of like the change, and I like trying to figure out new ways of doing things, and so it's kind of broken up the monotony.
Yeah, it sounds like you've adapted really well. And just out of curiosity, so I bought a home about a year ago. And when we did my home inspection, I remember the inspector came, and I kind of followed him around like a puppy, asking him questions, trying to get him to dig into and actually find problems with the home, because we didn't want to buy a house that obviously had problems with it. So how are you noticing a big difference in, how much you can point out, how much, or is it kind of business as usual for you? And is it different for the clients where they can't be there with you?
I think it is. There's a little bit more of this. That's one of the things that really I like about this compared to just doing construction, was the interaction with the clients. Mm-hmm. And so that's been the hard part, is just building that relationship and that trust of, okay, here, let me teach you about your house, and let me help you learn about the house. And so luckily we've actually we're quite fortunate. About last August, Pillar to Post started a new venture with virtual tours and integrating those virtual tours into the home inspections. And so my team was one of about a dozen across the country that was chosen to help beta test and pilot some of this. And so we'd been working through that, and in January they had just brought on another 20 Pillar to Post offices around the country. And so there was only about 30 or 40 total inspection companies that were doing this pilot and this beta, and then
Mm.
everything with COVID happened, and so okay, well, yeah, we're taking out a beta, we're just going to launch this, and so that has made a huge difference, because what it's doing for agents that are familiar with Matterport, the full
Mm.
360 tour, it's basically that, but the difference is with this newer technology, we can do a Matterport type virtual tour entirely through the house, but in minutes versus hours. So you know, for those of you that are familiar with Matterport, we can do a 3 to 4,000 square foot house. And we can shoot that whole tour in about 20 minutes, and we can upload it in about 5, and it's live and ready to go. And what Pillar to Post was working on was integrating that and pulling some of the, our inspection report out of the report itself and integrating it into the tour. So you have this virtual, walk through the house, and okay, you're in the kitchen. Okay, here's some things about the kitchen that you need to be aware of. And
Yeah.
so it's changed, and it was something we were just adding to our toolbox of things to do, but it's really made a difference for with what we're doing. So now our process has shifted. So now with our inspections, we'll finish the inspection, we'll finish the report. Again, our reports are still finished on site. So when we leave the property, before we've even left, we'll upload the tour, we'll upload the report. We can jump on a Zoom call, and then on the screen, we can walk through the house and walk through the report and everything with the client.
That's awesome. So it sounds like, has it actually streamlined things and made things a little bit easier for you? Because it sounds like you were way ahead of the curve, right? The pandemic hit, but you were already testing some of this virtual stuff. Has it made your life and job as a home inspector easier in that way?
I wouldn't say easier. It's hard to tell. I mean,
Yeah.
time-wise on site, we're still probably a little bit longer, but part of that
Mm.
is because our team has also taken an extra steps from the safety.
Mm.
So we're, fully wiping down everything and sanitizing everything before it. So with all things, we're actually a little bit more on site, on time on site for each inspection on average.
Right.
But the tours have really helped with, obviously if there was a problem down the laundry room, you'd grab the client, you'd run down there and say, okay, hey, you're here, this is leaking, take a look at this is what we're talking about.
Mm.
If you're just looking at pictures in a report, that was a little bit harder. So with the tour, we can say, okay, let's look down, and you can pan around, you can see, okay, zoom in, okay, this is where we're talking about, this is the issue. But what's been cool is we also purchased a bunch of their 24-foot extension poles, and we'll do the tour of the roof. So now we've never been able to, could never take a client and say, hey, let's go jump up on the roof and come look at these shingles that are missing, and come, so now
Right.
they can pan around, they can, and it's a bird's eye view. We actually aren't even hardly using drones now, because you can get those 360. I mean, they're 4K quality pictures that we can zoom in and check everything out, and we don't have to worry about all the safety hazards and licensing and everything that go with drones as well.
Right. That's great. So it kind of has its trade-offs as far as, time and effort, but conveniences in other areas. That's awesome. And that's really relevant to a lot of real estate agents today, because a lot of agents have had to kind of pivot and adjust what they're doing in a similar way, where they used to be able to go do open houses in person, or do walkthroughs and listing presentations or listing appointments. That all has to be virtual now. So
Right.
I think that aligns with a lot of what they're doing. I know a lot of agents do use Matterport. We've heard that a lot. They love it. So that's great. I kind of want to move into talking about some things that might be of concern to agents that they can learn from you that they might not either have learned yet or be able to gather intuitively. So let's start with what do you commonly find or even discover during home inspections that may prevent a home from closing or being able to close? What are some common
obviously
issues?
obviously there's the big things like, oh yeah, here's a major structural issue, or there's other things that turn up. Oh yeah, this was a meth house. It's tested positive for meth. I mean,
Right.
there's things like that. But I would say, those are few and far between, where you have these big, things that blow up. I would say the things that often not so much kill the deal, but can cause a lot more headache for the agents. My recommendation, my advice is it's the little stuff and just communication. So, for example, it can be something as simple as the attic. To inspect the attic, we have to crawl up through the hatch. that hatch might be in the master closet, and there's tons of storage and boxes and clothing and all kinds of stuff, and we couldn't even get to the attic hatch to get up there. The funny kind of chain of events is we can't get up there. We couldn't do the inspection. But a lot of buyers are very cynical and very, well, what are they hiding up there? Why didn't they move that? They knew you needed to get up. And so it starts this whole delay of skepticism and animosity between the parties, and it's usually something innocent. I had one where, to make the house show well, they were stacking all of their boxes in this storage room in the garage, or in the basement. Well, that's where the electrical panels were, so we couldn't get the electrical panels to inspect them. Oh, well, there must be electrical problems that they're hiding, and it just starts this whole chain reaction of we want extensions and we need to get someone else back out there, and and so that's it's a lot of that is just thinking. Most agents know what happens during an inspection, and sometimes they don't prep their sellers to, okay, hey, they're going to need to get in, take the padlock off of, sometimes they're on the outside meter panel for the electrical where the shutoff is, take the padlocks off, take the locks off the gates, move things out of the way so we can get to the furnaces and things. So it's those simple little things of just making sure the inspector can do his job, I think is one of those that can let everything else go. Another area that makes a big difference is for homes like rural properties or other specialty items. There's a lot of things that aren't going to be part of the inspection. So if there's a septic system, or if there's a well, if the sellers have any information on recent work or service or testing or things that have been done, have that out and available, or get working on that beforehand, before it's even under contract, because buyers are going to want that information. And most buyers, we find a lot of times, a lot of the rural properties, they're a little bit lower priced in our area, and so it's a lot of first-time home buyers. They don't know what they don't know, and so the inspector says, well, find out where the septic system is and find out if it's been serviced. Okay, well, now they have to, and that whole process delays everything.
Right.
So just kind of thinking ahead, and I mean, this kind of goes back to, we're starting to see more and more. I probably have done more this year than in the previous 10 years combined, but we're starting to see more and more seller inspections. Just where the seller will order and just say, look, I just want to know what we need to be aware of. And that can have a huge advantage, especially as you get, we're starting to see a little bit more in some areas, a shift over to more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. And if the sellers, if it's a buyer's market, plus they get the inspection, and now they have all this leverage, from what comes up in the inspection, they're holding all the cards. So if the seller knows, okay, yep, I know it needs a new roof. Yep, we've already accounted for that. I know it needs this. They can take care of those things, but it's all accounted for, and it reduces that time for negotiations and those occasional bombs that go off with crazy things that are found.
Right. So you mentioned a few of those kind of unique or special circumstances, like the rural homes, or the septic tank, or things like that. Are there any special circumstances or things that are affecting the way you do inspections, or what you're able to deliver now during this pandemic specifically? Is there anything new that's come up, or anything unique about our current situation?
No, I think the hardest thing is, just what we've gone through the last week is there's a lot of adjustments with everybody being at home. For example, radon testing. We have a lot of radon in Utah, and part of the protocol, the testing, is that you have to have closed house conditions. So keeping your doors and your windows closed as much as possible, because it can influence the results. Well, everybody's stuck inside, and we're at that time of year where it's not really hot enough that I want to start cranking up the AC, but it's not really cold enough, so I want to open up the windows. I want some fresh air. And so we've dealt with that. So there's some challenges and things of just educating people a little bit more, where before it was like, oh yeah, everybody's going to be gone all day. So trying to, before it was like, kids are at school, parents at work, yeah, go do the inspection during the day. Well, now everybody's home. It's not like we can go to the park for a few hours during the inspection, because parks are off limits. And so there's a lot of challenges there that and that's where I've really enjoyed some of the agents that realize this and and coming up with, more creative and unique things to help their clients and try to time things to make this easier on everybody.
Yeah, what are some of those things that you've seen agents doing to make that home inspection process easier? Whether it's sending the kids to the park or doing like what are some other things?
So I think the biggest one is just helping people understand, because at first you have sellers that are, what do you mean I have to be gone from my house? Where am I going to go? And, just explaining, look, everybody's trying to stay safe. The inspector's just coming from another house. Maybe the inspector's safe, but, we're relying on the other seller's word that they were healthy. And, so just kind of communicating and working with the sellers and just say, hey, look, let's just get through with this. Has been huge. But I've had agents that are timing things so that, hey, let's go look at houses during your inspection. Let's, where they're kind of helping accommodate and give them something to do during that time.
Right.
Luckily things are starting to open back up, and hopefully we don't have to deal with that too much more, but it has been a little more challenging.
Sure. So as far as the last, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, have you noticed a big decline for business with agents or with yourself, or has stuff stayed about the same? Because I know there's a lot of agents out there who are worried right now, who have either kind of thrown in the towel and said, I'm just going to wait for this whole thing to blow over, and they're looking for reasons and opportunities to be proactive, right? So have you noticed much of a change, or fewer sales, fewer, transactions, or is it business as usual?
So no, it's not business as usual. It's I would say in the last, from 8 weeks ago, we've kind of held steady, but historically we would be way busier right now. April is usually a time where things in our area really start picking up, and it's kind of just held stagnant. As far as the agents and things that we work with, it's the ones that have really figured out new ways to get out. Everything out there, there's so many different opportunities, and it's the ones that are adjusting and adapting and trying to be creative. We had an earthquake here in Salt Lake, 6 weeks ago, and so I had an agent reach out to me and say, hey, there's not much going on with real estate, but I'm going to reach out, and so any of her clients that were concerned with maybe damage that had happened in her, in their house, they could contact her, and she would put them in touch with me, and and we'd talk to them, and they'd, a few of them sent over pictures of cracks that, they weren't sure if they were there before or if it was afterwards, and just trying to provide value rather than just, oh, hey, I'm selling real estate, but I thought that was a great opportunity to say, hey, here I can help you. We're not selling them. I know you're not buying a house, but hey, I'm here, and let's, so I think the agents that have really taken advantage of that, the agents that I've seen where we're doing repeat, more inspections for them in the last month than we have in the last quarter, are the ones that didn't really slow down. A lot of it is they just kept pushing along, plugging along, and it's business as usual. Yep, things change, but we're just going to keep figuring out how to do it. So, a few agents where, you can't go out and, okay, you like that house? Great. I'll run over there and I'll FaceTime you, so you don't have to come to the house. And, so have agents going through and doing the tour, the walkthrough for their clients.
Let's see. Here you are.
Okay. No, I gotta. Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just telling the audience, I know that you just came off of an inspection, and that's why you're in your truck trying to run off your phone, which we appreciate you joining us anyway. But yeah, give us a little recap of the last minute or so of what you were saying. Sorry.
Trying to remember what I was talking about. Just the agents are coming up with unique ways, just trying to be unique and creative, and not let things slow them down. Going out and they're doing the walkthrough instead of, they can't bring their clients, but hey, I'll run down to the house, I'll jump on FaceTime, and let's walk through the house together. So I think creates some unique opportunities and unique challenges, and it's but yeah, we have some agents that they're having their best quarter ever. So
That's awesome.
it's definitely possible.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and I think that's what a lot of agents out there need to hear right now is that it is possible as long as you still put in the work, right? So we actually have a question from someone who's watching, Amanda Smith. She's one of our regulars. She's wondering, could you discuss settling versus actual foundation problems?
Hmm. Um, every house is going to settle a little bit. Um, and the easiest way I explain it to clients is the purpose of a foundation is to really do nothing. It's there to support your house, and it's there to hold back the rest of the soil from going into your basement.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the purpose of your foundation. And so if it's not doing that, then you have a problem. So homes will sell. So if your house moves, great, more, but it moves. If it's moving, that's a whole different issue. That's where they're concerned. So when we're doing inspections, we see issues that'll look for signs that maybe it's the brick. You have the little stair step, and
Sorry about that,
yeah,
everyone. Like I mentioned before, Jared's coming off of an appointment, so he's dealing with mobile data right now for his connection. Looks like we got him back. Jared, you were just talking about the difference between settling and actual foundation problems, and we kind of heard you describing some of those foundation problems and what you look for versus settling. Could you recap a little bit of that for us?
yeah. So again, the main thing is a house that's moved. I'm not too worried about it. If it's moving, that's where it's a concern.
Hmm.
So we're looking for signs of continual movement is where I'm more of a red flag. So if you see cracks and you see patching, where they've kind of fixed it so it looks better, but it's cracked again, that's where it raises some red flags, and we want to look at underlying soil conditions. A lot of it too is just having someone that understands the areas. I know there's pockets in my area that these areas are more prone to having settling and actual foundation issues, and so those ones too. So having someone that's just got some background and knows those pockets is going to help as well.
Right. That's awesome. So this kind of brings up for me. You mentioned before the earthquake that we had in Utah a few weeks ago. I actually live in West Valley, so I was like 5 miles away from that epicenter. It shook us really good, and we went through and checked our foundation and checked our house. But I know that there are other issues. You mentioned radon is a big one in Utah too. But for agents who are all over the country, and assuming that there are similar issues that might be specific to their area, where would you recommend agents go to find out what those issues are so they can bring them up with an inspector beforehand, so that they can really provide that best value for their agents? What's a good resource for kind of local home inspection issues that might come up?
Um, so again, in a lot of areas, home inspections are not regulated.
Hmm.
And so you're going to get so many varying opinions, especially in Utah, there's no regulation. Although, a lot of states are that way. In areas where you do have regulation, you're going to have organizations or associations that try and provide some structure and some continuity between inspections. So going to some of those there's ASHI is the American Society of Home Inspectors, NACHI, the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, probably the biggest ones. Going to some of those and some of the inspectors in those organizations, talking to them, get their experiences. You're going to get, I think you just go to our local organizations, you're going to get varying opinions as far as on and meth, and let's get some variance. So it takes a little bit of work, but I think that's where, bias. Sorry. I think the best resource is having the right expert on your team. So it's the same for us. We have plumbers, electricians, and heating guys that we go to when we have questions. having an agent, having experts that can go to when they do have questions. Um, it's going to just need to know the right people, and I think that's the key, is having the right team in place, having the good.
Right, right. So we have another question coming in from Cindy. Cindy asks, everyone here, wherever she's from, seems to be worried about a wood foundation. Should they be worried about wood foundations?
Wood foundations are I've only seen a few
Uh-huh.
here in Utah, but as I researched them when I came across my first one years ago, they're really cool. I mean, if they're done right, there's really nothing to worry about. I mean, you have the same structural concerns with a wood foundation as you would with a concrete foundation. So it really comes down to I think where we see failures is where people don't understand them and they haven't really taken care of them.
Right.
So they're a little bit more, you need to know what you're dealing with, but as far as structurally, they're pretty cool. I mean, they have some advantages, and I think learning more about the advantages, I can see an agent trying to learn with a wood foundation. Yeah, it could be a challenge, but I think there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, one of the biggest ones is with wood foundation, you have much more opportunities insulating that foundation, and more pretty cool technique that they require a little more expertise to them, so that's why I'm seeing much.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, the back half of that kind of cut out. It seems like we got kind of a choppy connection here. So no worries, Jared. It looks like Cindy is from Canada, so that's where our wood foundation is going on. Let's go through a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. You mentioned that the weather's getting bad, and that might be affecting your connection out there. So no worries. But let's get this last question answered from someone on Facebook. Andrew asked, can Jared tell us about a memorable inspection that he did, or maybe a couple different memorable inspections that stand out to you?
That's one thing I love about this job, is it's never a dull day. Probably one of the more memorable was going through a crawl space down in the rural part of the state,
Mm-hmm.
and crawling through a crawl space, and the crawl space must have been, because it was open and wasn't very closed off, it must have been all of the paths from a 15-mile radius came cold, because heat ducts were there were left for mummified cats, you know on top of the ductwork, just gone there to fit out their lives. And that the first few that I came across kind of freaked me out, but and that's not something I'll forget anytime soon, with mummified cats in the crawl space.
Oh, mummified cats. That's crazy.
The craziest thing the craziest thing we saw was one of my guys had an inspection, and in the attic, so not like a finished space, but just a regular attic insulation all over the place, someone had installed a fully functional plumbed toilet. So you could crawl up into the attic, and then there was a toilet that you could, just enough headroom, you could sit on the toilet, and it was fully functional. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that sounds like the dream attic.
Yeah,
you could put one on the roof and just have the best view,
So, no, but it's never a dull day with this job, is what we always say.
Yeah, I bet. And you mentioned some of those crazier ones happen in kind of the more rural parts of the states, or the state. What's like the craziest, I don't know, bigger city, or like in Salt Lake or Provo or somewhere with that you've encountered?
This doesn't really matter so much the regional, but I remember one house, and it was more just how the house was designed and some of the things going on in the house. But
right.
There were so many people living in the house It was very humid, lots of humidity. It was single digits outside that day. It was in January, super cold, but so much moisture was coming out of all these people, way too many people living in the house, that the humidity was going up into the attic space. It was then forming condensation, but dripping back down. So the attic actually had icicles hanging all over inside the attic space. Yeah, lots of water damage and mold and fun stuff. But icicles in the attic was a new one for me.
That's crazy, man. I can't even imagine the things some people are oblivious to. You know, it's nuts. All right. Well, for the sake of we've got a pretty strong connection now. We've had a little bit of a tough time some of this show, but well, let's wrap up here in the next few minutes, and let's wrap with any advice you have for agents right now, especially during this time. Something that you've noticed other agents doing that's keeping them in business, or just any advice that you have for agents moving forward as we come out of this, hopefully come out of this pandemic and get back to normal.
I think my main advice and things that I'm seeing is build those relationships. You've got a little bit of extra time, so reaching out and building those relationships, whether it's an expert like an inspector or mortgage people. I mean, everybody's in the same boat, so we might as well figure out. I mean, it's funny because on the one hand, we can't be social. On the other hand, you have to figure out how to still be social. We've started using things like BombBomb and video messaging just so that we can reach out and make those connections with people. And we're integrating a lot of those things, I think, that we'll be using even after all this is over, because it just gives that extra connection, that human element. And I think I see everybody in this industry moving more that way to increase that human element in what we're doing. Like podcasts, like and things like this, where just reaching and seeing different people and making those connections. I think you got to jump on the bandwagon now, because this is the way things are heading.
Absolutely, and I think that's great advice, and we've heard that from a lot of different real estate agents and coaches and trainers. But I think it's great to hear it from someone like you who works with real estate agents, but you're not directly in the industry in the sense that you're not out there buying, selling home, or teaching people how to do it. The virtual concept, it kind of umbrellas over everything and over everyone and what they're doing. So that's great advice. Jared, do you have anything else you'd like to tell the audience or discuss before we wrap up here?
Just Pillar to Post is probably in most of their areas, so
Nice.
reach out and talk to Pillar to Post. Our goal is to help people and educate people. We're not just there to be an inspection, but to be educators. So just a plug for you, build your experts, and hopefully they involve Pillar to Post.
That's awesome. Yeah, and pillartopost.com is where they can go to find their local franchise or home inspectors where they're at. And I love the point that you brought up of in many states, including the one we're in Utah, that home inspections, you said, aren't regulated, right? You'd think
nope.
that's
crazy. So in Utah, and that's the thing with Pillar to Post, is there's some sort of benchmark standard that we have to maintain. Whether we're in a highly regulated state or not. Well, I mean, you could go take a business license and call your inspector if you wanted to. That's all that's required is a business license. So it's like I say, build your team of experts, because if you're relying on your clients to go and get a good home inspection, where they don't know who to choose and what to expect and not to expect. So help them out that way.
Totally. So going to someone like Pillar to Post, worth the extra money if there is any extra cost, right? Rather than just whoever they find.
Yep. And that's because we get that all the time as well. This other guy, he'll do it for $100 cheaper, and it's like, well, I can get a 99-cent hamburger, or I can get a $12 burger, and they're not the same. They're both burgers, but they're not the same. So,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know, the same kind of applies to home inspectors, you know, especially in a place like Utah where it's unregulated.
totally. And I think a home inspection is a lot bigger deal and has a lot more impact later in life than a burger. But that's a great analogy. I'm going to go with the $12
Yeah.
burger every
Yeah.
time. So awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jared, for joining us today and giving us that great advice. If anyone joined in partway through today and would like to catch the replay, you can. We'll be emailing that out. We can post it in the chat here. And if you have any last questions or thanks for Jared, put them in put them in the chat now. Otherwise, if you are not on our email list, to get daily updates for this podcast, go to the redx.com or the redx.com/blog and wait for the pop-up. When that pop-up comes up, put your email in there and you will get updates for every episode of this podcast we've done, including some updates for our new script ebook. We just came out with an ebook that will give you the best scripts to use right now during the coronavirus pandemic that real agents, top producers are using. So get on that email list. We'll send that ebook your way. And yeah, thank everyone for joining us today. This has been the Stability Opportunity Podcast. Thank you, Jared, so much for joining us. And stay on for a few minutes after here, and we'll chat and wrap up. Otherwise, everyone have an amazing, safe, and happy weekend. We'll see you later.